Good morning. Look at this. I'm on time. And the internet's working. That's an odd feeling to have something actually work. Might get spoiled. Something actually works, right? Anyway, I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a really good day because my internet's actually working. They replaced my modem, router, whatever, all that stuff over there. They had to replace it. So I'm good to go for now. So very very happy with that. So my speeds are back up to where well, my computer speeds are. My speeds are still after my race on Sunday or walk run whatever it was on Sunday. I'm a little still slow, but my internet speeds are back up right where they should be. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having a great week. Oh, I just got a new great. I'm a great aunt again. Oh, anyway, so sorry, I just got the notification just now. Anyway, yay. Anyway, well, that distracted me. Sorry, but it doesn't take. I can distract myself. I can be talking about one thing and literally have a thought and distract myself. I don't have to see something. Nothing has to happen. I can distract myself. So I'm easily distracted. I'm very, very much aware of that. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. So, but we got a new baby in the family, so I'll have to get the details here in a little bit. Anyway, so after we talked about Jonah yesterday, I decided to go read Jonah. That's what I read for my personal devotions this morning. And so I got all tucked in there, got my coffee, because I come in here and make a cup of coffee, then I take it back in there and sit in my bed and read my Bible and sip on my coffee. Actually, I still got it. I haven't been up very long, honestly. But I went back to look at Jonah again because I knew his prayer was powerful, right? So here's and you know the story of Jonah. Look, it's only four little bitty chapters, but it's a significant story. God tells Jonah, go to Nineveh. And Jonah goes, Nineveh, that way. All right, I'm going to Tarshish. And he went that way. He literally went the opposite direction. It says God said, go to Nineveh. And Jonah said, all right, I'm getting on a ship going the other way, right, as far away from Nineveh as I can. And so then it says at the end of chapter 1 that God prepared a fish. Now, there's a lot of speculation about it. Is there really a fish that big? Can a whale really swallow a man? Because a lot of whales that would be big enough actually have a really small throat, and man couldn't go through it. However, it came down. God prepared a fish. We don't have to make it make sense because God prepared a fish. Right? We don't have to make it make sense when we have peace in the middle of a pandemic because God prepared a peace. Right? He gave us that peace. He has already made preparations. He is making preparations and he will. Now this we don't want a fish. We don't want God to prepare a fish. But you know what? God prepared a fish another time. Remember the time that the he had 5,000 men and they didn't count women and children, so there was probably more like 12,000 people, give or take, but 5,000 men, and the little boy had a lunch with two fish and five loaves. Yeah, some bread. There were probably small loaves, bread and fish that he had brought on his lunch, and Jesus used those fish and those loaves to feed everybody. Can you imagine? Because it said Jesus prayed over it and blessed the food and then said, pass it out. That had to have been amazing to go, we're going to pass this out. And all they had to do was start. All they had to do was start and act on what Jesus had said. And can you imagine you pull off a piece of bread and you hand it to someone, you go to the next person and you just keep doing that and that loaf of bread never runs out. We talked about something similar for that about that then similar to that the other day when the widow ran out of oil and flour, and Elijah came and said, make me a cake first, and her oil, all until the famine was over. She poured oil, and it never. Hey, I got a coffee cup here, God. I don't think he'll do coffee, though. He might. You never know. But, God prepares things for us to help us, not to harm us, right? Because he says, I have plans for you. Well, it said God prepared a fish for Jonah. The fish, he of course he went in the boat. There was a bad storm. He knew he had done something wrong. It was his own conscience. So they finally threw him over. They threw everything else over first. They finally threw Jonah over. The seas went calm. The whale swallowed Jonah, and he's there. It says 3 days and 3 nights. But listen to this. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the fish's belly, and he said, now look, this was Jonah's own fault. But God had already prepared a way for Jonah to get out of it before Jonah went into it. And it was his fault, right? Jonah sinned. Jonah purposefully, deliberately disobeyed God. God said, go that way. He said, okay, I'm going that way. And God knew that Jonah was going to reach out to him in the belly of the well. And guess what? God met him there, even though it was the product of his own sin, the product of something he purposefully did wrong. God still met him there. That gives me hope, because when I'm all messed up, God can still come. He will still come. He will still answer. So I want to look at Jonah's prayer. I got to hurry because I don't have all day, right? And Jonah says, I cried to the Lord because of my affliction, and he answered me. He answered me. God answered him in the belly of the well. He was there. It was his own doings that got him there, his own disobedience. And yet God answered him, right? He said, out of the belly of the well, uh, I cried, and or out of the belly of hell I cried, and you heard my voice. Now he goes on down here. He says this. He says, you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your billows and all your waves passed over me. He went through the water, and the well came up and just swallowed him. Now wasn't that quite a coordination there? I always say God plays connect the dot, but God had the whale. He prepared the fish, well, whatever you want to call it. He prepared that fish, and it was at just the right spot. Just the right spot in a vast sea, ocean, wherever they were. I don't even know where they were. Yeah, right? And when they threw him overboard, the fish was there ready to take the bait. Isn't that's a second miracle? Or part of a big miracle, a little piece of a big miracle, right? Because it was right there when he was thrown overboard. And so then he says this. Then Jonah says this. Then I said, I have been cast out of your sight. Yet I will look again toward your holy temple. But Jonah wasn't cast out of God's sight. God knew right where Jonah was to coordinate that perfect lunch for that fish. God knew exactly where Jonah was. Can you take that encouragement today that even if we do something wrong on purpose or ignorantly, not knowing we're doing something wrong, God still has us? Because he knew right where Jonah was. He had the fish right there where he needed it. And it all just coordinated perfectly according to God's plan, right? So, but here's my point. Jonah said, I've been cast out of your sight, but he wasn't, but he felt that way. Have you ever felt that way? I tell God that a lot. Do you see me? Do you hear me? Are you just sitting? Are you busy? Can you see me? Because sometimes it can feel like God's not looking, but he's always looking. So then he goes on, but then here's what Jonah does. He says, I will turn toward your holy temple. I'm going to look. I don't know if you're looking at me or not, God, but I'm going to look at you. I'm going to turn my focus back to you, God. And that right there is our game changer. When we go, I don't even know what you're doing. I don't know what's going on in this crazy world. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm going to look to you. And that's a game changer. That changes everything. It doesn't change God because he's still God. It doesn't change his patience. It doesn't change his love. It doesn't change his mercy. It doesn't change his grace. But it lets us see him again, right? And so then we go on down and let's see, which one did I want to talk? Yeah, okay. I'm going to skip this next part because I'm going to try to save time here. And so we know Jonah gets thrown up out of the well. That's nasty, right? And he gets up and he runs to Nineveh. He says, I am running. And he ran. He hadn't even eaten for 3 days, right? He ran to Nineveh and it took him a lot less time. It was the first real marathon, right? It probably, I don't even know how many miles it was. And so when he gets there, he says, God's gonna, y'all, you have really, you're just all full of sin and God's decided he's gonna destroy you, and they probably, well, I think this actually might have been, I don't know when this Jonah was written. I've heard it was written quite early, but they'd probably already heard the story of Noah, right? And so what happened was, see what happened was, the people actually repented. Imagine that. The king actually said, don't let man or beast or flock taste anything. No one eats, no one drinks, but everyone is covered, beast and man. He said, we're all going into mourning because we are have been disobedient to God, and we're going to cry mightily to God. And everyone's going to turn from their wicked. They literally repented. And God went, that's what I wanted. That's the whole message of the prophet. We misunderstand the prophet, but I won't get into all that because the whole message of the prophet is return to God. It's not the part of you're all going to die, because we're not going to die spiritually when we turn to God. Right? And so the whole point of the prophet is to bring people back to God. And then they did. And it made Jonah mad. That's a typical prophet, right? He's like, I knew you weren't going to kill him. I don't know why you even sent me. This is why I didn't want to come to begin with. Boy, does he sound like me. Anyway, and so he's over here, and so Jonah says this. Now, he finally went to Nineveh. They've repented. He gave them God's message. They repented, true repentance. They said, we're not going to do evil anymore. We're going to serve God. We're going to pursue God. We're going to seek him, right? And and then and then they repented, and then Jonah's like, great. That's what I knew was going to happen. But see, to the prophet in the Old Testament, if they prophesied something that didn't come to pass, they killed them. They didn't play all this little silly stuff, right? And so so their image was important. And so he was all worried about his own image here because, well, I said you were going to destroy him, and then now you're best friends with him. Great God, that's just wonderful. And God's like, why are you angry? And so Jonah says this: I know that you are gracious and merciful. I know you are slow to anger. I know you are abundant in loving kindness, one who relents from doing harm. And so Jonah knew God was gracious. What was it he said about mercy earlier? He said, I've been cast out of your sight, but he wasn't. Down in verse 8, those who regard worthless idols forsake their own mercy. And mercy is capitalized. That's interesting. I'm going to have to review that today because I didn't catch that this morning. Right? When we regard something else, we ignore God's mercy. We ignore his grace. But you know what? It doesn't mean it's not there. We can ignore his mercy all day. We can ignore his love all day. But it doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean he can't see us. Even if we turn away, where I'm not going to look at you right now, God. I don't know how you could do that, but yeah, I'm not going to look at you right now, God. God can still see us. It doesn't make his mercy go away. It doesn't make his grace go away. And he had mercy on Nineveh because they truly turned back to him and they came face to face with God. And that's what repentance means: is I'm not going to look at these worthless idols. I'm not going to serve sin. I'm not going to serve wickedness. I'm going to look at God. I'm going to take my eyes off of what's going on around me and look at him, because he's always looking at us. We're never out of reach. We're always right there. And even if we're not looking at him, we're not paying attention, we're not even praying, we're not even thinking, we don't even care, his eye is on us. Remember, he doesn't have the capacity to leave us. He doesn't have an off button for his mercy. He doesn't go, okay, everybody ready? We're turning mercy off for a little bit. Got to give it a rest. No, there's no off button on his mercy. There's no off. There's no pause. I love live TV, by the way, today, because now you can pause it. When I was a kid, you couldn't pause it, but I can pause it. I can run and take care of Chris, and I can come back or go to the bathroom, come back, or go do something and come back. Right? I can pause it. But God's mercy, his love, his grace. There's no pause button. It's either we acknowledge it and it works in our lives, or we ignore it. But even when we ignore it, it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't make it any weaker. We just don't reap the benefits, right? We are never out of reach. We are never out of his sight. Think about that today. He is always looking at us, waiting for us to say, hey, God, he loves it. And he leans over going, yeah, what? Because he wants that relationship, right? And in that relationship is where we find true peace. Peace that's going to last forever, right? All right. Peace out, you guys. Hope I said something that made some sense today. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.